Compare these two chord progressions, version A and version B. The second version sounds a little more like a strummed harp. So that's the name of this groove. It's part of my larger series on how to turn these two simple chords into lots of different grooves. So today we'll break down how to go from the basic chord progression to the strummed harp sound into 7 simple steps, and you can apply these to any chord progression. For step 1, I'm just going to invert the first chord. So instead of C major, I'm taking the C and moving it up an octave. This creates better voice leading as I go from this chord to the F minor chord. And those two inversion shapes will be familiar to you if you're following along with the series. As a reminder, if you want the sheet music to follow along with all of these different grooves in this series, you can go to pianofluency.com and download the sheet music for free. All right, for step 2, we're already going to introduce this rolled sound. All right, so I just want you to try this sensation. We're no longer playing all of the notes at exactly the same time. Instead, I'm leaving my fingers in place, ready to go on the notes, and then creating this slight roll, mostly with the motion of my wrist and my arm. It's not a finger movement, it's a larger movement, so that I don't have to feel like I'm being super precise with my fingers. It's more that I'm letting the movement of my arm transfer through them and create this strummed sound. So you can start by practicing that just with the right hand and go back and forth between the C major and F minor chords. Now this will sound more beautiful if you add sustain pedal. So I'm going to leave the sustain pedal down for each chord sound, and when a new chord comes along, I will change the pedal. That's what we call it when we lift the pedal right at the start of a new chord sound and then immediately put it back down. And we're so close now to having something that sounds like an angelic strummed harp pattern. We're only on the 4th step, but we're going to use the secret sauce, and that's just going across different octaves. Okay, so I'm playing exactly the same chord shapes, but I'm going to move them up subsequent octaves of the piano. Check it out. Right? It's the same 3 notes, but I'm just moving up an octave. And I call octaves the secret sauce because, for students, you don't have to find any new chord shape. You're just locating the same one you already found in a different part of the piano. And we're privileged as pianists with this because there are some instruments where it's really hard to play the highest note and the lowest note on your instrument. A brass instrument comes to mind, or if you're a vocalist. But on the piano, a beginner can play the highest note on the instrument and the lowest note on the instrument. You don't need any training for that. So we can take advantage of this as arrangers and use the different octaves of the piano keyboard to create different sounds. So once more with the sustain pedal, this pattern sounds like this. And I'll point out, this bears a resemblance to one of the drills in my membership program. It's called the Flourish Drill. It's a little bit more advanced than this. And if you're curious about that drill and how to systematically apply skills like this into your piano playing, you should go to pianofluency.com and become a member. All right, from here on out, we're just adding more notes. We're going to be doubling notes to thicken up this chord sound and make it even more rich. I'm going to start by adding a root position C chord in my left hand. Now this makes it more difficult because you're looking for 2 different 3-note chord shapes in your hands. There's the root position C chord, right? And then the first inversion C chord. But you put them together and they make this beautiful chord sound where we have C on the outside of both hands. So take your time with that. And as long as your sustain pedal is down, you can really take your time moving from one octave to the next. There's no rush. So go as slowly as you need to find these shapes. Now let's add the left hand for the F minor shape. And I'm going to do something interesting here. We're playing the F minor chord in this inversion. Second inversion means that I've taken this F minor root position chord and moved the top note down an octave. What I like about this is it leaves C in the bass. We actually call this a pedal tone. It comes from organ pedals. A pedal tone is one note that's held out across the harmony of different chords. A lot of times it will happen in the bass, and in particular, if we're hearing this chord progression as something that's in the key of C major, perhaps with a borrowed chord for the F minor, the one chord, C, is often used as our pedal tone. So we'll often put one on the bottom as a pedal tone, and it creates this really nice static feeling in the bass while harmony is moving around on top. So that's what I'm doing here. This ends up being more like a C major and then an F minor over C. That's that slash chord notation. And I really like the sound of that for this harp approach to this chord progression. So we have one more change. In our right hand, we are now going from this shape to this shape. You're starting to notice, if you've been following the whole series, that I'm reusing a lot of things across different videos, right? In the last video, we used this same 4-note triad shape for our plinky 8th note pattern. And here, I'm now going to introduce it to the right hand for the strummed harp pattern. So what I've done is, instead of these 3-note approaches to the triads, I'm playing the C twice. I'm playing the C here in my pinky and also down here in the thumb. And that works for both of these chords to double a note and strengthen the sound of the chord. So if I add that in with the right hand, I now have these very full chord shapes. And the complete pattern that I played at the start of the video. Remember, you can apply this to any chord in any progression, any song. If you're comfortable with this feeling of a strummed harp-like chord, it can be a really nice thing to add in as kind of a flourish or a moment of beauty in a larger chord progression or a longer song. And with that, I want to thank you for joining me. My name is Ted with Piano Fluency. I'll see you next week for the next video in our 2 chords, 10 grooves series.